Today is the first day of the rest of your life, and your future planning started yesterday. You need simple, easy strategies to create maximum results. This is The Scotty Show. Time to get your ducks in a row with Scott Leonardi, owner and president of Complete Solutions, Inc. As a certified financial fiduciary with 25 years in the planning industry, Scott helps educate you on how you can make the best decisions for your family and your finances, and helps you get your ducks in a row for your incredible future. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to The Scotty Show with Scott Leonardi. Scott, what's going on?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I am doing great, doing fantastic. I'm excited to be back with you. I'm really interested in the topic today because you told me we're going to be talking about the Complete Solutions Retirement Toolkit, and I don't know anything about it yet. So you kind of kept this hidden from me, and now you're going to share it with both myself and the audience.
Yes. I'm very excited about it. I created the Retirement Toolkit about a little bit over a year ago. Over the years, being in the planning industry for the last 25 plus years, people get close to that retirement time and they start thinking, are my ducks in a row? What should I be looking at? What should I be considering? What should I be thinking about? I thought, you know what, I should put together some type of a kit that would kind of guide somebody down the path of thinking about the areas that truly do affect their retirement. Mm-hmm. So I put together this kit, and so I'm pretty excited about this because I'm a holistic planner. I talk things holistically, and I think it's crucially important to plan your future holistically, right? Looking at all the different avenues. I'm sure you've heard the word holistic, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've been talking holistic for like 26 years. Today, companies kind of use holistic as a buzzword. Mm-hmm. I think some of them don't really know what holistic means, but my philosophy is, listen, when you get close to that time, and I call it when you're leaving your job for the very last time. I call it the post-career phase. I hate to call it retirement because retirement has a connotation of what?
Yeah,
ending. I'm done. I'm retiring. That's right. And that's kind of sad, but it's not. It should be your post-career phase. As a matter of fact, I call it your great adventure.
Okay.
And think about that. You spend your whole entire life building and growing and working hard to get close to that time when you're going to leave your job for the very last time, and you're entering into that great adventure. What are you going to do? What kind of new careers can you do? Where can you spend your time? What can you do that you've never done before during that time where you're not counting on that job to tell you what you have to do every single day? So, man, it's called your great adventure, right?
Love that.
I mean, you feel me? You love me? Great adventure.
Yeah.
So again, how do you plan that? How do you work through that? And what should you be considering when it comes time to leave that job for the very last time? Well, again, holistic planning talks about all those different areas. And holistic planning is, you can compare it to a car, right? An automobile. And if you have a car and all you did was put gas in it, that's all you did. Your whole entire time, all you put gas in it, how long would your car last?
As long as the oil lasted.
Exactly right. Exactly. So guess what? You can't just put gas in it. You got to put oil in it. You got to check the tire pressure. You got to do all those things, right, to take care of that wonderful asset you have called your car, right? Mm-hmm. So the same thing with retirement. There's multiple things you have to take a look at. Your health care, your investments, life insurance, how that parlays in the whole scheme of things. What about long-term care? Again, you have to look at all that things from a holistic type standpoint, right? So again, what should you do? What should you look at? And that's kind of the key.
Okay. So no pun intended, but let's unpack the toolkit.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great analogy right there. So again, I put together this toolkit, the Complete Solutions Retirement Toolkit, and I am happy to send this out to anybody who wants this. Because here my philosophy is this: you got to become educated. Mm-hmm. You got to learn about the things that can affect you and hurt you. So again, before we get started, you can go to my website, duckduckplan.com, duckduckplan.com, and learn a little bit more about the toolkit and kind of what's in it. And all you got to do is schedule a little call with me. You can click on my website, schedule a 15-minute call with me. And what I want to do is I want to ask you a few questions so I can be sure your retirement toolkit has all the stuff in there necessary pertaining to you. And there's some basic stuff in there that pertains to everybody, but I can add a few more things in there. And I'm happy to send this toolkit out to you complimentary and get it in your hands because it's important to kind of learn. So what's in that toolkit? Well, the first thing is a retirement planning checklist. Eric, you ever use a checklist?
Oh, yeah. My wife gives them to me a lot. Honeydew list.
I-do list, checklist, same thing. One of my problems, I'm awesome. I'm awesome, right? Great planner, I'm awesome. But guess what? I got the same flaws everybody else does. If I don't write it down, I don't follow the list, you kind of forget stuff. So my wife's always on top of me. Put it down. Follow your list, right? Follow your list. So I thought, you know what? A retirement planning checklist kind of makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I put together this retirement plan checklist that goes over topics like this. Healthcare. Is that important come retirement time?
A little bit, yeah.
Sure it is. What about your life insurance? Your life insurance tends to change over the years. That's important. Social Security maximization. How do you get the most out of your Social Security benefit? You paid into it for years and years and years. When it comes time to take those options, you want to be sure you're getting the most out of the system. And I actually did a podcast specifically on maximizing your Social Security, but that's kind of important. Guaranteed income planning. Again, what checks are coming in to you come retirement time? Sometimes people think that day they leave their job for the last time, the post-career phase, sometimes people think that's about age. Well, it's not about age. It's about money, right? Money. Yeah. If you got the cash flow coming in, covering all the expenses going out, it doesn't matter what your age is. It's time to go into your great adventure, right? So again, planning that retirement income is important. Your basic estate planning documents, funeral planning, kind of analyzing your risk. See, so all this is on this list of items under your retirement checklist. And there's like 15 items on the retirement checklist. That's in there, so which is very, very important. That's kind of a good starting point. And then I put a variety of articles in there that kind of help you understand some of the things you should be thinking about when it comes to those type of areas. And let me ask you a question, Eric. Again, when it comes to Social Security planning, do you think the options are easy and simple?
I know that they're not, because we've talked about that, and there's a ton of options, and I think it's almost impossible for anybody to navigate them by themselves efficiently or effectively, because it can kind of get confusing.
Yeah, it's crazy confusing. Lots of different options, lots of different ways to be able to manipulate those numbers. And again, you paid into the system. You want to get the most out of the Social Security system that you paid in. In the Retirement Toolkit, we talk about that. I put a report in there called the Social Security Elephant in the Room, which again talks a little bit about Social Security and the thought process and what should you be thinking. So the follow-up to that is I can produce what's called a Social Security maximization report for a customer or client and help them understand which is the best way to take their Social Security. And again, all you have to do is call me and talk to me for a few minutes on the phone, and I will run that report for you complimentary. Again, it helps you kind of understand that process. And again, as we're talking about healthcare, not only is Medicare and healthcare planning, but what else do you think is a big issue when it comes to healthcare planning as you retire, as you go into the post-career phase? What other issue when it comes to healthcare is a problem?
Well, long-term care is going to be an issue eventually, but I don't know if it's right when you get in there.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding. So not only is your regular healthcare crazy important to make sure you have the proper coverage. You're trying to get the maximum benefits out of Medicare because, again, you paid into that for your whole entire life. Another important element to that is your drug coverage. Drugs can be crazy expensive, so making sure you have the right coverage is crucially important for that. But I also include a report called the 10 Crucial Things You Need to Know About Long-Term Care. The 10 crucial things. So, again, the key is the education. Whether you find out about long-term care and you decide to do no planning, that's okay. But the key is education and finding out what those options are. So again, that's an incredibly important report. It's just kind of important to kind of see through this whole process. And as you're looking through the retirement checklist, one of the other things I put in there, I put 2 books in there. One's called the Duck Book. And this is a great little book, and I've mentioned it on podcasts before. It's only kind of about, I think, 8 pages. Very small, very thin, not intimidating. Have you ever picked up a book, Eric? Have you ever picked up a book and you think, I'd love to read that, but oh my God, look at how thick this thing is.
I don't want to carry it. Yeah.
This looks great. I like the cover. I'm going to set this down. It's 480 pages, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When you get that on digital, it's not that it's lighter. It's even worse because they can't cram all the pages on the same number. So that 480-page book is now like 3,000 pages on a little tiny screen. You're like, oh, my Lord, I can't read 3,000. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, and God forbid if you're listening to it, it's like 9.5 hours. Well, who's got 9.5 hours to listen to something, right? It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's right.
Planning books are wonderful, and I've got a lot of thicker planning books that are great, but I wrote this little book called The Duck Book, and it just talks about the things you should be thinking about come 65 and beyond. It's called The Duck Book. Great little book, and so it just talks about some basic thought processes to think about. But guess what? You still got to put a thick book in there. So I put also a planning book in there called Stress-Free Retirement. So guess what? You think there's stress in retirement?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. There's stress in life. I mean, just getting your ducks together, figuring out what you're going to do come retirement is crucially important. I mean, Eric, it's amazing to me when I talk to some clients, and sometimes I talk to clients and they say, I'm not ready for retirement. And I look at their stuff and I think, you're 100% right. You're not ready for retirement. You need to keep working until the day the Lord comes and gets you, because you have not planned properly, my friend. I love you, but you've not planned properly. And just on the other side of that coin, I've run across people that I'm thinking, man, you have your ducks in a row, your debts are paid off, you've got very large, nice retirement accounts, you got plenty of income coming in. I'm like, what are you doing still working? Leave that job. Get into that great adventure. There's so many things you can do, but people get worried and concerned because they think, hey, what am I going to do in retirement? And they also think to themselves, what if I don't have enough money to last my whole entire life? We always tell people statistically, that's a monster worry. It's one of the biggest worries potential retirees have is, am I going to have enough money before I run out of life?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a valid concern. So one of the things that we talk about in my retirement toolkit is I talk about a report called the Gapper.
The Gapper.
It's called the Great Adventure Projection Report.
Okay.
And what the Gapper does is it actually takes the information that you give me, and I produce this wonderful report, complimentary again, it projects clear out to age 100. So it helps people understand with their expenses, their cash flow coming in, their assets, how they have it invested, how long will my money actually last? So the Gapper report is wonderful. So I ask people all the time, hey, you have the Gapper yet? Do you get the Gapper? Well, I know you didn't get the Gapper unless you deal with me.
That's right.
But again, kind of projecting that out gives people the comfort and feeling that, hey, maybe I can retire. Because again, in retrospect to that one client I just told you about that tells me he's not sure, and I tell him, don't retire.
Yeah.
There are people who can retire, that should go into that great adventure and start enjoying life because they got the assets, they got the money. But again, they're worried, hey, is this all going to be enough? Is it going to be enough? Well, again, in this retirement toolkit, I talk a little bit about the Gapper and how you can get the Gapper from me and kind of figure that stuff out. So it's kind of an important kind of report. And then I put some other articles in there that, talking about retirement income and what other financial advisors are talking about out there. So again, it's just a great educational type packet that helps you get a little closer to figuring out what you have to do kind of come retirement time. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, sounds fantastic.
I mentioned retirement books. The little duck book. I show people that. I said, listen, everybody will read this. I don't care who you are. A factory guy that doesn't read anything will read this little tiny The Duck Book. But I also put this other book in there. It's written by Patrick Kelly, which again I mentioned a second ago, but it's called A Stress-Free Retirement. So lots of things in retirement that are stressful, but this book talks a little bit more about guaranteeing your income and that kind of stuff, and it's kind of fun. I think it's like 135 pages or something like that. But I tell people, listen, read at least chapter 2. Chapter 2. As a matter of fact, I put a $2 bill, an actual $2 bill in the book, and I put a little note on the book and say, listen, you have to read at least chapter 2. It's 6 pages. And if you don't read chapter 2, you owe me my $2 back. I said, is that fair enough? Read at least chapter 2, right?
That's great.
So again, it's all about starting the process of learning about the things that can kind of help you. So it's just kind of funny.
Yeah. And I noticed that you're all about the $2 bills.
Yeah, it's all about. Yeah. You remember that from the last podcast, right? About $2 bills. People,
right.
You see, people remember it.
That's
and
right.
So yeah. And so another thing I want to tell you too that's kind of important. I had one fellow that was referred to me, and I was talking to him for a few minutes, and it really sounds like he had some questions about retirement, not really sure where to go. And I said, listen, I want to send you out this toolkit. And I was kind of explaining to him what was kind of in the toolkit. And one of the things he said to me, he said, listen, well, I appreciate that, but I already got an advisor. I already got a guy. I said, well, listen, I'm not trying to be your guy. I mean, I'd love to be your guy, but I'm not trying to be your guy. If you got an advisor, that's perfectly fine. But the point is, there's not one guy who has all the best perfect answers. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Sure. So sometimes guys think about one or two areas and maybe they need to implement other concepts and topics. So I said, listen, I'm happy to send you the book out. As a matter of fact, I talk about different things you should be thinking about and different questions you should be asking your advisor. It's kind of funny. I run across people that they have a nice estate planning, they have some nice retirement accounts, but they haven't talked to their advisor, in a year and a half, 2 years. Well, if you're close to retirement, you ought to be talking to your advisor kind of on a regular basis, right? Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely.
So I said, I'm not telling you, hey, listen, you need this retirement toolkit because you have to do business with me. Listen, get the kit. I'll send it to complimentary and then see if some of these things are in line with what you're trying to do. And if I can help you pass that, that's great. If I can't, I always tell people, listen, if I can't help you and I sent you the information, wave to me at Kroger's when you see me. Right? That's okay. Wave to me at Kroger's. Tell your friends that I'll help them, but that's okay. We don't have to do business. I want you to become educated. And that's the key, because most people spend more time trying to plan a vacation in Florida than really planning their financial future.
Yeah.
So again, the Complete Solutions Retirement Toolkit is a must-have.
All right. So let me ask you this. If people are going through the toolkit and they're finding some deficiencies in their plan, deficiencies in maybe their thinking of what kind of plan that they should have, whether they're working with an advisor or not, what's your best recommendation?
Well, the best recommendation is schedule a phone call with me. Schedule a Zoom call with me. If you're local, close to the office, schedule a one-on-one appointment in the office with me. Let's talk through some of these concepts and worries and concerns you have. Because what I'll typically do is I'll sit down with somebody and say, okay, tell me a little bit about what you're thinking about that great adventure. What do you want to do? What are your worries? What are your concerns? And usually people kind of have some of the similar worries and concerns. And the key is, once we kind of start talking through that, I say, okay, great. What areas of your retirement portfolio do you feel comfortable with? And what do you not feel comfortable with? It's kind of interesting. Once you have that little bit of a dialogue, it's fairly easy to come up with some problems. And then I got to say, listen, if it's okay with you, I'd like to come up with a couple solutions for you, get them in your hands, and then we can kind of talk through that. And if some of that stuff makes sense, we'll step further. And if not, that's okay too. I mean, does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And speaking of which, if somebody's thinking, well, I'd like to get the retirement toolkit, or I'd just like to talk to Scott, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, again, the best way to get a hold of me is obviously getting on our website at duckduckplan.com. Obviously, getting your ducks in a row, duckduckplan.com, and you can learn a little bit more about us and kind of what we do. From that, you can actually click on one of the links and actually book a 15-minute call with me. That link takes you to a link called Let's Talk Scott, SCOTT, letstalkscott.com. And you can actually pick a time that's convenient for you right on my calendar and book that one-on-one phone call, or we could do a Zoom, or like I said, if you're local, I'm happy to do a call right in the office. But really kind of analyzing that great adventure. That's the key. I mean, think about that. So many people work their whole entire life, and retirement to them means nobody needs me. I'm done. It's over. I'm going to sit home in my lounge chair. I mean, that's what retirement sometimes means to people, and it shouldn't mean that.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness gracious, some people will spend 20, 25 years in retirement. That's a lifetime, right?
Yeah, it is.
And again, that's what I call the great adventure. So when I'm talking to people about this process, and sometimes people think this is kind of corny, but I don't, because again, it's a third of your life. So I ask people, listen, what kind of things would you want to do in your great adventure? What kind of things have you started, but you never really finished, but you'd like to finish?
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute.
That's a great question.
We all have things that, I started that, but never did it. Maybe I should do that again. What kind of things have you never done that maybe you'd like to do? We had this wonderful vacation this last year. I might have mentioned it to you or not, but and with COVID and everything crazy going on, we've been to different vacations, and I thought, well, me and my wife and Melania, my daughter, was going to go on a vacation. So we don't want to. We're worried about COVID and what will be open and what not will be open. I actually rented an RV, through like rideshare. I rented an RV, and we took this trip to Iowa because a buddy of mine was in Iowa, and we were going to stop by and visit him for a wedding. But we went and we rented this RV. We had a great time. We did some cool stuff. We stopped and visited the museum where that movie was created by. What was the baseball movie that was?
The Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. Yeah. I didn't even know it was in Iowa, so we went and did that. And I took my daughter fly fishing. You ever been fly fishing, Eric?
I have attempted it one time in somebody's yard.
Oh my God.
I wasn't even at the river.
I've never been fly fishing either, but I started researching. Because it's funny when you decide, I'm going to go do this trip and I'm going to go visit this other state. And you start researching that state. Each state has a lot of cool stuff. So I found out about Iowa. They had these areas that were called the driftless areas, driftless zone or driftless area. And it's these bubbling springs that come up and they're loaded with trout. And they actually stock these trout, these streams. And I thought, my God, I'm going to take my daughter trout fishing. I bought fly poles. And again, we went there. We hired a guide. It cost like $300 to hire this guide who could show us where the fish were. And it was the most amazing experience that I had with my wife and my daughter. Amazing. And my daughter, Milana, you've talked to her. I mean, she was just aggressive with that little fly pole. Bam, 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 out of there. And she caught the first trout. And I think she caught the last trout. But I mean, what a cool, wonderful experience. So just think about that.
Yeah.
We're running through life and the kids are busy. Maybe you should have spent some more time with your kids, but you just couldn't. What if you took your kids fly fishing? What about your grandkids? So I always ask people, listen, what are some things you've never done that maybe you'd like to do in your great adventure?
Yeah.
And then I ask them, listen, what are some things that are just crazy, but you think you'd love to do? I don't know if it's jumping out of a plane. I don't know if it's, rock climbing. I don't know what it is, but just think about that. Because once you go into this great adventure, there's a lot of cool things that you could do that you've never done before.
Yeah.
I really think the great adventure, that time at the end of your post-career phase, it should be a time of just figuring out what you'd love to try, love to do, who would you love to spend some time with, and just do it, right? It's just time to be able to do that. You worked your whole entire life. It's time to do that. But guess what? You got to get your ducks in a row.
Absolutely.
You got to look through this retirement toolkit. You got to make sure things are together. You got to think about the thought processes of what you need to be sure that are together. And you need the gapper report. You need the gapper. You need to figure out, how can I make sure that my whole process is going to last me clear to age 100? And once you got that together, you typically walk out of my office or you walk out of our appointment and you feel like, I know where we're going. I know the plan of action. I know how to get through my great adventure. And now it's time to plan the fun stuff. Isn't that exciting? Don't you want to just plan the fun stuff?
I would love to be in charge of
I just want to plan the fun stuff, man.
Yeah, that's right. If I could just be in charge of the fun, oh man, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, your whole entire life growing this baby, man, it's time to enter that great adventure and plan some fun stuff. So again, everybody on this call, listening to this call, you need the Complete Solutions Retirement Toolkit. I'm happy to send it to you. Again, go to my website, duckduckplan.com. Watch a couple of videos. Listen to a couple of podcasts. You can listen to some of my ongoing podcasts right from our website. And again, call me. I'll get that toolkit out to you. And again, if I can help you understand a better way to attack your great adventure or enhance what you're currently doing, that's kind of the key. And again, simple, easy strategies just kind of make it work. And I always tell people, simple, easy gets things done. That's the issue. I mean, so many things are too complicated. People don't implement it. Simple, easy gets things done. Is that exciting?
That's perfect.
Don't you just want to plan your great adventure right now?
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Woo!
All right, Scott. Well, I'll tell you what, this is, again, fantastic information. You gave your contact info out there. I'm hoping that people take advantage of that and say, hey, I'm really interested. Who doesn't like getting a toolkit? I mean, come on.
No, exactly right.
Yeah, reach out and do that. Scott, again, thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, listen, I'm excited to be here. I just tell people, I heard this a long time ago. I heard this concept, live life like it's your job. That's cool. Live life like it's your job. Cool stuff.
And we all want to be good at our job, right?
Until next time, baby. Until next time.
All right.
Boom.
Scott, thank you. And of course, our last thank you goes to you, listening audience. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to The Scotty Show with Scott Leonardi. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Scott comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it really easy to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Complete Solutions, this is Eric Johnson reminding you, it's time to get your ducks in a row.
Thank you for listening to The Scotty Show. Remember, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Live life like it's your job. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Complete Solutions, Inc. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice, tax advice, or legal advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.